Hi everyone, my name is Veronica. I'm a student leader with the Office of Student Volunteerism, and today I'm going to talk to you about some virtual volunteer opportunities. Some of you might think because of all the quarantine and stuff that you're not able to volunteer anymore, but you still can actually through these hotlines. So I'm going to share with you 3 different hotlines and my personal experience as a volunteer with one of them, and I'll even answer some questions at the end. I am going to be talking about some serious topics that can be a potential trigger, so trigger warning, and if you feel overwhelmed, please feel free to text 741-741 for our crisis text line or the National Suicide Prevention line. So I volunteer at a hotline. Well, with all the social distancing going on, I'm sure many of you have heard about all the negative mental health effects. These times can be really isolating for people and trigger that loneliness, depression, anxiety, all those kinds of feelings, and those discouraged feelings can really reappear during these times. So it's really heartwarming to be part of a service or a cause that shows that we really need to depend on each other during these times and provide support. So that's where you come in. So there are 3 services that I'm sharing: the National Sexual Assault Hotline, Trevor Project, and Crisis Text Line. I'm sure that there's others you can find as well too, but one very important thing to note is that with all these hotlines, they do have a training commitment as well as a volunteer commitment, which is typically around a year. And so if you really are interested into this, please first discern if you're able to commit to their requirements and their volunteer terms, just because they provide so much funding and resources to maintain this service, maintain their site. So really see if and discern if you can commit to this kind of work. The first one is the National Sexual Assault Hotline, ran by RAIN, website somewhere in the screen. They provide a 24/7 service for people who's experienced sexual abuse, assault, or harassment. It's a 20-hour online training with an 18-month volunteer commitment, and they'll be posting training dates soon. You can check out their site for more information and requirements. Next is the Trevor Project. So the Trevor Project works with the LGBTQ community over a variety of issues in regards to maybe identity, suicide, depression. They have a chat, text, and lifeline, and the training for these is 40 hours with at least a year commitment. And they also have a Trevor advocacy volunteer option for the LGBTQ youth. More information on their website. And finally, my personal favorite is Crisis Text Line, just because I have experience with it. So Crisis Text Line is like the National Suicide Prevention Line, except it's through texting or Facebook Messenger, completely anonymous. It's an immediate short-term service that helps their texters get from that hot moment to a cool, calm, safe state kind of mood. And they do this all through active listening, collaborative problem solving, and safety planning. So you will learn all those through training. And they are in most need of volunteers, especially after 1 a.m. to around 5 a.m. I would say. So if you're a night owl, please really consider this line of work. I know many of you are already staying up past 4 a.m. anyway, so you might as well do something purposeful during that time. And you get a cute night owl badge if you consistently volunteer those late night hours. You will train for 30 hours, and I did that through a span of 6 weeks back in 2017 and have been a volunteer since then. They also have a 200-hour volunteer commitment, and ideally you complete this within a year, so that averages out to 4 hours a week. And I know that may sound like a lot, but to me, being a crisis counselor is one of my most cherished, worth it experiences. So I'll answer some questions now that you might have, and feel free to contact Crisis Text Line directly for any specifics. You can also comment below or email our volunteer office for any other questions. So question 1, what led you to volunteer at Crisis Text Line? Well, I found it while looking for online volunteer work because I was too anxious to drive around back then. Also, I just hated how I never knew what to say to my friends when they would be looking for support. I didn't know how to support people verbally, and this has really helped me a lot about that. And also, I've been wanting to pursue a career in mental health care. Question 2. So you can volunteer anywhere, yes, as long as it's private, because these conversations are confidential. We respect their privacy. Question number 3. Isn't it scary or difficult? How are you able to let go after a tough conversation? Well, it was a bit scary in the beginning because in my training we're just having pretend conversations, and so when I got to the real thing, that's when it hit me that I'm talking to a real human being and I don't want to mess this up. That's why you have supervisors and your crisis counselors. Trust your training, trust your coach. There are other people out there that you can ask for help with in the platform. If you ever need to debrief, especially after a tough conversation, we're here for you. Definitely, I've had times where I was like, oh, why did I say this? Or I wish I had said this instead. You learn something new in every shift and you gain confidence over time. Nearly everything is difficult before they are easy, right? So it's always a learning experience for me that I really value. And I know that empathy means to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So every conversation is heartbreaking, every single one basically. With that said, no one has ever been a burden, unless you're prank calling, then don't do that. And I think that I debrief pretty well. I can let go. I practice self-care as much as I can, even though I'm not the best at it. I've had people who won't take into account anything that I say to them, and I've had people who got attached to me. Every shift is unique, and that's why I love it so much. I love to learn about other people, about their experiences, and having this platform just keeps me going. Actually, it has helped me a lot. So you could be the difference between somebody who wants to self-harm and them putting away their object of choice, and I think that's gives a lot of purpose for a lot of people. Number 4, do you need to have a good mental health record to volunteer? You don't have to have a perfect mental health. No one's perfect, really. But you do need to be in a good headspace going into this, and it makes sense because you can't pour from an empty cup, so it's important that you take care of yourself first. I've learned self-care strategies through my training too, and we have crisis counselors who are suicide, substance abuse, trauma survivors. So it's definitely possible to support others if you've gone through something difficult yourself, and if anything, it'll help you understand others' point of view and be a light through them. And last question, what if I'm afraid to ask for help? So the goal of a crisis counselor is not to fix people. The goal is to provide an avenue for people who could really use someone to navigate them through their thoughts and feelings, so that we don't have to call for an active rescue. We're not licensed professionals. We're just a short-term immediate service to provide people support who feel like they can't stay safe anymore, or they're worried that they'll do something really bad. So one conversation might not change everything. I mean, it's one conversation, but at least you tried. And you are important. We're glad that we can set time aside so that we can focus on keeping people safe. So like I said, you're not a burden. We have this time set aside, and I'm glad to be able to have time set aside to be volunteering at this place. And I know it can be a scary moment to ask a stranger for help and be vulnerable. It definitely takes a lot of courage. So I'm always honored when people share with me their deepest, darkest experiences, like, wow, you don't even know me, but you trust me. So that's really amazing, and I personally gain a lot of strength myself from that, and from other people's willingness to continue with life. So that's all. I highly encourage you to volunteer if you feel called to do this. You can definitely see if it's for you, if you're interested. I encourage you to remember that you don't have to be a professional to support anyone. Just validate them, encourage them.